Sharon Kang woke up in a wedding dress. Not her bedroom, not her home. She sat up slowly, heart already pounding before her brain had caught up with why. The room was enormous. High ceilings, expensive curtains, morning light pressing through fabric so thick it only let in a thin whisper of gold. The kind of room that belonged to people who had never once had to think about money. She looked down at herself. White dress, ivory silk, pearls fastened around her throat like someone had put them there while she slept. Her hands were shaking and she didn't know when that had started. She stood up. Her legs were unsteady beneath her. She crossed to the window and pushed back the curtain and looked out at manicured gardens she had never seen before in her life. This wasn't her home. This wasn't anywhere she recognized. The door opened. Two stern-faced women in black uniforms entered. "It's time to get dressed, Miss Kang," one said. "Not a request, a command." "Time for what?" Sharon's voice was hoarse from crying. "Where's Minjun? I want to see Minjun. What's happening? Why am I being held here?" "Just put on the dress," the other woman said, already moving toward her with the gown. Sharon tried to resist, but what was the point? She was outnumbered, exhausted, and completely powerless. Over the past 72 hours, she'd screamed herself hoarse, pounded on locked doors until her fists were bruised, begged guards who stood like statues outside her room. Nothing had worked. Maybe if she cooperated, she'd finally get answers. Maybe Minjun was waiting somewhere to explain this whole shenanigans. Maybe this was all some terrible misunderstanding that would be cleared up once she saw him. The women dressed her like a doll. The gown was exquisite, ivory silk with delicate lace, designer craftsmanship, probably worth more than most people's cars. It fit perfectly, as if someone had known her exact measurements. That thought sent ice through her veins. How long had this been planned? They did her hair in an elegant updo, applied makeup that made her look radiant despite the terror in her eyes, fastened a pearl necklace around her throat that felt like a noose. "Beautiful," one woman murmured, stepping back to admire their work. Sharon looked in the mirror and barely recognized herself. She looked like a bride, like someone happy and excited about her future. She never felt more trapped in her life. "Come, it's time," one of them said. They led her down a grand staircase into the main hall of the Choi Seonghwan estate. Sharon's heart pounded as she took in her surroundings. This wasn't her family's mansion. This was Choi Seonghwan's home, Minjun's father's territory. A man in a suit approached carrying an elegant leather portfolio. "Miss Kang, we need you to sign some documents before the ceremony," he said with a practiced smile. "Just formalities. Standard paperwork. What ceremony?" Sharon's voice cracked. "What documents? I'm not signing anything until someone tells me what's going on. It's just wedding paperwork," he said smoothly, opening the portfolio to reveal several pages of dense legal text. "Sign here, here, and here. Initial here? Wedding paperwork for what wedding?" Sharon demanded. But her hands were shaking so badly she could barely hold the pen they pressed into her fingers. "Your wedding, Miss Kang. Now please, everyone's waiting. Just sign." Sharon's mind spun. Her wedding to Minjun. Was that what this was? Had Minjun planned some elaborate surprise ceremony? It didn't make sense. Why kidnap her? Why lock her up for 3 days? Why refuse to let her see him or talk to him? But what choice did she have? With trembling hands, Sharon signed where they indicated. Each signature felt like sealing her own fate, but the alternative was... What? Being locked in that room forever? Excellent. "Now, if you come this way," the man said. They led her through double doors into a room that had been transformed into a makeshift chapel, white roses everywhere, candles flickering, soft music playing, and people. At least 24 people Sharon didn't recognize, all dressed formally, all watching her with expressions ranging from curiosity to pity. At the front of the room stood an officiant in formal robes, and next to him, Sharon's blood turned to ice. Oi Seonghwan, not Minjun, not her fiancé, not the man she loved. Minjun's father stood at the altar in an impeccable black tuxedo, his silver-threaded hair perfectly styled, his piercing blue eyes locked on her as she was led down the makeshift aisle. No. The word escaped Sharon's lips as a whisper, then louder. No. No, no, no. What is this? Where's Minjun? Min-Jun! She tried to turn, to run, but the women gripped her arms firmly, pushed her forward step by step toward the altar. Toward Choi Seonghwan, who watched her approach with an expression that was impossible to read. "Let me go. This is insane. I'm engaged to Minjun. Where is he? Min-Jun." but Minjun didn't appear. The doors remained closed. No one came to rescue her. They brought her to stand beside Seonghwan at the altar. Sharon was hyperventilating now, her vision tunneling, the room spinning around her. "Ladies and gentlemen," the officiant began, his voice calm and professional, as if this were a normal wedding and not a kidnapping, "we are gathered here today to witness the union of Sharon Kang and Choi Seonghwan in holy matrimony." "Wah, T. Are you for real? This is kidnapping. I don't consent to this." Sharon's voice was shrill with panic. "This isn't legal. You can't force someone to marry—" "You already signed the marriage license," Seonghwan said quietly beside her. His voice was steady, almost gentle. "Those documents you signed, they were legal and binding. This ceremony is just a formality." Sharon's knees nearly gave out. The papers, the signatures, they'd tricked her into signing her own marriage certificate. Why? She screamed, tears streaming down her face, ruining the carefully applied makeup. "Why are you doing this?" Seonghwan's jaw tightened, but he didn't answer, just stared straight ahead as the officiant continued reading vows that Sharon didn't speak, promises she didn't make. "Do you, Choi Seonghwan, take Sharon Kang to be your lawfully wedded wife?" "I do," Seonghwan said firmly. "And do you, Sharon Kang, take Choi Seonghwan to be your lawfully wedded husband?" "No, I don't. I don't consent to any of this. This is kidnapping. This is— the bride consents," someone said from the audience. Sharon whipped around to see a lawyer she vaguely recognized from her father's funeral. "The marriage license has been properly executed with her signature. The ceremony may continue. By the power vested in me," the officiant said quickly, as if rushing to finish before Sharon could protest further. "I now pronounce you husband and wife. You may kiss the bride." Seonghwan turned to Sharon. For a moment their eyes met. She saw something flicker in his expression. Regret? Guilt? Something she couldn't name. He leaned forward. Sharon turned her face away sharply. "Don't you dare touch me." Seonghwan straightened without kissing her. "It's done," he said quietly. "You're my wife now, Sharon. Legally and binding. Fighting it won't change that. I'll get it annulled." Sharon spat through her tears. "I'll go to the police. I'll tell everyone you kidnapped me and forced me into this. You'll find that difficult." Seonghwan's voice was still gentle, which somehow made it worse. "You signed the documents willingly in front of witnesses. The ceremony was legal, and your stepmother Mandy was the one who gave consent on your behalf as your legal guardian until you turned 25. Sharon's world tilted violently. "Mandy? What does Mandy have to do with this?" But Seonghwan was already turning away, signaling to his staff and giving them orders. "Take her back to her rooms. Make sure she has everything she needs. And someone get her out of that dress before she ruins it." "No, you can't just— let me go. But the women were already gripping her arms again, already pulling her from the room. Sharon fought like a wild animal, screaming and kicking, but it was useless. They were too strong, too many. As they dragged her back up the stairs, Sharon caught a glimpse of someone standing in a shadowed alcove watching the whole scene. It was Minjun, her fiancé, the man she loved, the man she was supposed to marry. He stood there with his hands in his pockets, his expression unreadable, and did absolutely nothing as she was dragged away. "Minjun!" Sharon screamed. "Minjun, help me, please! How could you do this? How could you let them—" He turned and walked away before she could finish. The women locked her back in the bridal suite, stripped off the wedding gown, left her in a silk robe, sobbing on the floor, legally married to a man 3 decades her senior who she barely knew. Sharon Kang had become Sharon Choi Seonghwan, and she had no idea why. Drop a comment if you're already hooked, and don't forget to subscribe. This story is about to get so much crazier. 3 days earlier. To understand how Sharon ended up drugged, kidnapped, and forced into marriage, we need to rewind 3 days. 3 days before the nightmare wedding, Sharon was living what she thought was her normal life, grieving her father, planning her future wedding to Minjun, and trying to navigate the increasingly strange behavior of her stepmother Mandy. 6 months had passed since Clinton Kang's death. 6 months since the will reading that left everything to Sharon and barely anything to Mandy. 6 months of growing tension and suspicious activity that Sharon couldn't quite put her finger on. Mandy was up to something. Sharon was sure of it. Her stepmother had become secretive, taking hushed phone calls that ended abruptly when Sharon entered rooms, meeting with lawyers and accountants at odd hours, disappearing for days at a time without explanation. Sharon had tried to brush it off as grief or Mandy's way of coping with losing Clinton, but her instincts screamed that something was wrong. Then things got even more strange with Minjun. Her fiancé had started acting cold. Distant. He'd cancel plans at the last minute, avoid her calls, give one-word answers when they did speak. The warmth in his brown eyes had been replaced by something else. Something that looked almost like guilt. Sharon confronted him one afternoon at his penthouse apartment. "Minjun, what's going on with you?" she demanded, standing in his living room with her arms crossed. "You've been acting weird for weeks. Are you having second thoughts about the wedding? About us?" Minjun's jaw tightened. He looked at her for a long moment, and Sharon could have sworn she saw pain flash across his face. "There are things happening that you don't understand," he said finally. "Things I can't explain right now." "Then make me understand," Sharon replied. "We're supposed to get married in 2 months. I deserve to know if something's wrong." "Sharon." Minjun ran his hands through his hair in frustration. "Just trust me. Please, I need you to trust that everything I'm doing is for a reason." "That's not an answer," Sharon replied. "It's the only answer I can give you right now." He snapped back. Sharon left his apartment feeling more confused and hurt than ever. The man she loved was keeping secrets from her, and she had no idea why. Then came the photos. Sharon was having coffee with an old friend from college when her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. She opened it and nearly dropped her phone. It was a photo of her, in bed, with a man. Except it wasn't real. It couldn't be real. Sharon stared at the image in horror. It showed her apparently sleeping with someone, intimate and compromising, but she had absolutely no memory of it happening because it hadn't happened. The photo was fake. It had to be. Photoshopped or AI-generated or something, but it looked devastatingly real. More photos followed. Different angles, different positions, all of them showing Sharon in compromising situations with a man whose face was just blurred enough that she couldn't identify him. Her phone rang. Minjun's name flashed on the screen. "What the hell is this?" Minjun's voice was cold when she answered, angry in a way she'd never heard before. "Who is he, Sharon?" Sharon stammered, "What?" "Hey, what you're talking about?" "Don't lie to me. Someone just sent me photos of you with another man, in bed. How long has this been going on?" Sharon's blood ran cold. "Minjun, those photos aren't real. I would never cheat on you. Someone is setting me up. They look pretty damn real to me," he replied. "I'm telling you they're fake. Think about it. When would I have even had time to—" "I don't know, Sharon. You tell me. Maybe during one of those times you said you were too busy to see me. Maybe while I've been working my ass off trying to—" He stopped abruptly. "Trying to what?" Sharon demanded. "Never mind. I can't do this right now. I can't even look at you right now." She cried out, "Minjun, please. You have to believe me." He hung up. Sharon tried calling back. Texting. Nothing. Minjun had completely shut her out based on fake photos that she couldn't explain and didn't understand. Who would do this? Who would go to such lengths to destroy her relationship? The answer came 2 days later from the most unexpected source. Martha, one of the long-time maids who'd worked for the Kang family since before Sharon was born, pulled her aside one morning with fear in her eyes. "Miss Sharon," Martha whispered urgently, glancing around to make sure they were alone. "You need to leave this house. Tonight. Don't pack anything. Don't tell anyone. Just go—" "What? Martha, what are you talking about?" Sharon exclaimed. Martha drew Sharon closer and bent her close to her mouth. "I've been hearing things. Your stepmother, she's planning something terrible. I don't know all the details, but I heard her on the phone last night talking about removing obstacles and finalizing arrangements." She mentioned your name. Sharon's stomach dropped. "What kind of arrangements?" "I don't know, but Miss Sharon, I knew your mother. God rest her soul. And I knew your father. They would want you safe. Please, take my advice and run. Get as far away from here as you can, until you can figure out what to do." Martha pressed an envelope into Sharon's hands. "This is money. Cash. Enough to get you somewhere safe for a while. Promise me you'll go. Tonight." Sharon stared at the envelope, then at Martha's terrified face. The older woman had never lied to her, had always looked out for her. "Okay," Sharon whispered. "Tonight. I'll go tonight." She spent the day pretending everything was normal. Had lunch with Mandy, who was unusually cheerful and kept asking about Sharon's plans for the evening. Avoided phone calls from numbers she didn't recognize. She had lunch with Mandy in the sunlit dining room. Her stepmother was unusually cheerful, practically glowing as she chatted about meaningless things. But there was something else in Mandy's eyes, something that looked almost like anticipation. Mandy coughed, clearing the silence between them. "So, Sharon, darling, what are your plans for this evening?" Mandy asked, delicately cutting into her grilled salmon. "Meeting anyone? Going anywhere?" "No," Sharon replied, forcing herself to sound bored and tired. "I think I'll just stay in, maybe watch a movie. I'm exhausted." "Oh?" Mandy's eyebrows raised slightly. "Not going out with friends? You've been so isolated lately. It's not healthy, you know. I just need rest," Sharon said, pushing food around her plate. "It's been a long few months since Dad died." "Of course, dear. Of course." Mandy's smile widened. "Well, get plenty of rest then. You never know what tomorrow might bring." The way she said it, with that particular tone, that knowing look, sent chills down Sharon's spine. Sharon's phone buzzed several times throughout the day. Unknown numbers. She didn't answer any of them. Didn't want to risk tipping anyone off that she suspected something was wrong. By the time evening fell, Sharon's nerves were stretched to breaking point. She forced herself to eat dinner. Told Mandy good night. Went to her room and closed the door like it was any other night. Then she waited. Midnight. The house had finally fallen silent. Sharon had been lying in bed, fully dressed for hours, watching the clock on her nightstand tick toward the moment she'd make her escape. 11:45 p.m., 11:52 p.m., 11:58 p.m. Midnight. Time to go. Sharon's hands shook as she grabbed the small bag she'd hidden under her bed, just the essentials Martha had told her to take. The envelope of cash, her phone, a change of clothes, her mother's locket that she never went anywhere without. She opened her bedroom door slowly, carefully, listening for any sound in the darkened hallway. Nothing. Just the settling sounds of an old house at night. Sharon crept down the hallway on bare feet, her shoes in her hand so they wouldn't click on the marble floors. She took the back staircase, the servant stairs that hardly anyone used anymore, down to the ground floor. Her father's study was at the far end of the house. The keys to his old Mercedes were still in the desk drawer where they'd always been. He'd kept that car for sentimental reasons. It was the first luxury car he'd ever bought himself, back when he was just starting to make real money. Sharon's fingers closed around the keys. She clutched them so tight the metal bit into her palm. Almost there, almost free. She made her way to the garage through the interior door, not daring to go outside where security cameras might catch her. The garage was dark and musty, smelling of oil and old leather. The silver Mercedes sat in the corner where it always had, covered in a fine layer of dust. Sharon pulled off the car cover, wincing at every sound it made. She climbed into the driver's seat. The leather was cold against her legs. Her hands trembled so badly she could barely get the key into the ignition. "Please start! Please, please start!" She turned the key. The engine turned over once. Twice, then roared to life. Sharon nearly cried with relief. She put the car in gear and pressed the button for the garage door. It began to rise with a mechanical whir that sounded deafening in the quiet night. No time for stealth now. She had to move fast. Sharon slammed her foot on the gas and burst out of the garage into the cool night air. The main gate was 100 yards away. If she could just get through it before anyone realized what was happening. The gate began to open automatically as the car approached. The sensor recognized the vehicle. Sharon's heart soared. She was going to make it. She was actually going to... 2 a.m. Sharon had been driving for nearly 2 hours, taking random turns, getting as far from her family's mansion as possible. She was somewhere on the outskirts of Los Angeles now, in an area she didn't recognize. The streets were empty at this hour, just pools of yellow streetlight punctuating long stretches of darkness. Her plan was simple: drive until dawn, find a cheap hotel where she could pay cash and not have to show ID, then figure out her next move. Maybe call a lawyer. Maybe contact the police. Maybe just keep running until she was far enough away that Mandy couldn't reach her. That's when she noticed it, a black SUV in her rearview mirror. Sharon's stomach clenched. It was probably nothing, just another car on the road. Los Angeles was a big city. Lots of cars drove around at 2 a.m. But when she turned left at the next intersection, the SUV turned too. When she turned right, it followed. "No," Sharon whispered, her knuckles white on the steering wheel. "No, no, no. They'd found her. Somehow. They'd found her." Sharon pressed down on the accelerator, the old Mercedes picking up speed. She took turns at random now, not caring where she was going, just trying desperately to lose the vehicle behind her. But the SUV stayed with her, matching her every turn, getting closer. Her original plan was forgotten now. She couldn't stop at a hotel, they'd just grab her from the parking lot. She couldn't go to the police. What would she even say? That her stepmother was planning something undefined and vague. She had to keep driving, had to outrun them. Had to. Sharon's eyes dropped to the dashboard. The fuel gauge was flashing red. Empty. What will you do in this situation? Tell me in the comment section. I want to know. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss this story, because it's about to get more intense, and you won't see the twist coming. So for now, I want you to stay tuned and subscribe so you don't miss it. No, 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 no.